The evidence around the use of masks by the general public, especially outdoors, is extremely weak.
Why wouldn't you just wear a mask? It's not difficult, just wear one. Why are you being so awkward? It's tempting, isn't it? Just comply. Don't cause any trouble. Why be the odd one out?
In terms of wearing a mask, our advice is clear that wearing a mask if you don't have an infection really reduces the risk, almost not at all. So we do not advise that.
Are there any potential problems with wearing a mask? No, none. Except for hypoxia, headaches, drowsiness, dizziness, reduced ability to concentrate, slowed reactions, and cognitive impairment. This can lead to neurodegenerative diseases in later life, and damaged nerve cells are not regenerated. Oxygen deficiency is even more dangerous in children, as fewer neural pathways are laid down. Then there's bacterial pneumonia, which is infection of your lungs, typically caused by Streptococcus, which normally lives in the throat of healthy people. Try breathing that into a warm, damp mask all day and see what happens. It's a perfect breeding ground for bacteria. Then there's mask-related impetigo, a deeply unpleasant skin disease. And let's not forget that constantly touching and reusing a mask is agreed by pretty much all concerned to be stupid for reasons of cross-infection.
Rachel?
This is a very interesting question. Now, the WHO still says no, their advice is not to recommend that everybody, general members of the public, should wear face masks.
The number of healthy kids in the UK who have died from COVID is the same as those who have died from attacks by supernatural beings, namely 0. If you insist kids wear masks, you may as well say to them, well, carry a clove of garlic to protect you from a vampire.
Now that you have learned what you have learned, it would be well for you to return to your own country.
There are many reasons not to wear a mask, but let's have a look at the alleged benefits. I did a lot of searching, but the evidence is pretty thin on the ground. Essentially, it seems to come down to this. You won't exhale quite so many moisture droplets which may be infected, and someone may breathe them in, and then they could catch COVID. That's it. Hardly anyone now claims masks protect the wearer, even in the contradictory, ever-changing world of masks.
One of the reasons that people wear masks is they think that it's going to protect them from virus. But the virus isn't floating around in the air, so it's not protecting me against anything because it's not there. It's probably going to be on my hand because I've shaken hands with someone who's got the virus, and I have transmitted it. I have carried the virus to my face.
Well, that's the hypothesis, and like any good hypothesis, we need to subject it to testing. That's the scientific method which took us away from witchcraft and delivered modernity. And that's just what Professor Christian Torp Pedersen, the chief physician in the research department at North Zealand Hospital in Denmark, did. They took a sample of 6,000 people, half of whom who consistently wore masks and half didn't. Many of them were supermarket workers with significant exposure to members of the public. This is a large-scale study. It took place over a decent period of time. It was done by credible researchers in a comparable European country. If there is a benefit in wearing masks, this would demonstrate it and prove the hypothesis to be true. The argument would be essentially over. So, what did the study reveal? We don't know, because neither the Lancet, the New England Journal of Medicine, nor the American Medical Association will publish it. But I think we can safely say that if the study proved the government's case, it would be trumpeted from the rooftops. Instead, it is suppressed, so do the maths. So it seems like the hypothesis failed, and like any failed hypothesis, it should be discarded, not enforced by the full weight of the law. This isn't following the science like they claim, it's the very definition of anti-scientific, anti-rationalism. So how about the consistency of the message? Do you remember only 7 months ago they were telling you not to wear masks?
The vast majority of people are not susceptible to getting a severe infection. For most people, it will be a mild illness, like having a cold or a cough or the flu. It's the older people with comorbidities who are at risk, so you don't need to go and panic buy face masks.
And hardly anyone wore masks. Then, all of a sudden, in the summer months, when we know respiratory diseases always fall away, we had to wear masks. It was an absolute volte-face, and we all had to wear them. Remind you of anything?
In accordance with the principles of doublethink, it does not matter if the war is not real, or when it is that victory is not possible. The war is not meant to be won, it is meant to be continuous.
So why would anyone believe exactly opposite things and fervently obey utterly contradictory edicts? Why do people condemn anyone who is capable of thinking and seeing this utter bollocks for what it is? I think it's because in a tiny part of their minds, they too know it's bollocks. But if everyone else complies, they don't have to face the reality of their own moral and physical cowardice. And that's why they hate you. Your ability to think, your willingness to say no, your courage to stand alone if necessary, reveals their gutless cowardice for what it is. And they hate you for it. Because if they didn't, they'd have to face the reality of their own spineless, worthless servitude and hate themselves. If you like this, please like, recommend and subscribe.